Greetings everyone. I hope mko fiti. So leo tunaenda discuss one of the most famous behavioral psychologists, ama psychoanalysts, ama a psychiatrist, for those of you who choose to call him that way, to refer to him that way. So tunaenda discuss leo tunaenda discuss one of his key findings, which is the Oedipus complex, ama the Oedipal mother. The individual we're going to discuss about today is Sigmund Freud. So Sigmund Freud, for those of you who don't know who Sigmund Freud is, Sigmund Freud ndio alidiscover that as a human being kuna kitu inaitwa the subconscious. And subconscious, in simpler terms, subconscious ni, you see, there are narratives when you act out things in the world, ama when you are doing something, kuna vitu zenye zina influence your choices, your decisions, the way you perceive the world, the way you look at people. Kuna this underlying narrative zenye we mwenyewe hata haujui. It may be a drama that you're acting out, but you're not conscious of it. So zina influence your decision. Then later, when you come to analyze what you have actually done, una realize, oh, wait a minute, why did I act in such and such a manner? As opposed to maybe a better way. So Sigmund Freud ndio ali-identify that kuna vitu zina exist. Think of it as behind the scenes zenye wewe mwenyewe hata haujui zina exist in the first place. So what you need to do is you need to sit down and sort of examine who you really are. And for you to examine who you really are, you have to identify that kuna the subconscious. And the subconscious inakwanga na vitu tatu. Kuna the id. The id is the thing that utai-associate na ikitaka kitu imetaka. That's the id. Haijui, haina time frame, haina any sense of the future. Ikitaka kitu saizi imetaka. And then immediately above it kuna the ego, and then right above the ego kuna the super ego. Super ego ni sort of you can think of super ego like a transcendent being. Ni hile kitu inajaribu ku create order. This is how things should be. Sawa. Na anything that tries to find its way into the psyche inajaribu push back. So unaona hapa the id na kuna the super ego. Id ni ile kitu inataka, it's the whimsical part, ama the hedonistic part ya human being. It's the part yenye iko associated na kitu kama pleasure, kitu kama hunger, ama anger, lust. You can think of that as the id. Na super ego ni kitu inajaribu sana kusuppress id. So what the ego does ni inajaribu kumediate. It's the bridge between the id na the super ego. It's sort of a mediator between the two, because ukiacha the super ego win ama influence too much, then you end up in a cataclysmic state where you end up being a tyrant of your own presuppositions. Now at the same time, ukiacha your id control, what you end up being is you end up being a hedonist. Now the realm that a hedonist exists is not different from the realm of chaos and confusion. So id mostly natakanga ku explore na the super ego is sort of you can think of it as a precursor to tyranny. Think of it as a precursor to tyranny. Yani inajaribu ku maintain things in such and such a manner. So but that's not what we're going to discuss about today. Kenye nilikuwa nataka ku discuss about today ni kitu inaitwa the Oedipus complex. So Oedipus complex comes from this word, ama this prince known as Oedipus. So Oedipus ni huyu prince. It's a long story, but I'll sort of shorten it. Ni huyu prince mwenye alipenda mamake sana, and that sort of attraction ika-change from appreciating ama loving the maternal side of your parenthood, ikakuwa a sexual attraction towards the mother. So what Oedipus alienda up kufanya ni he killed the father and he ended up marrying the mother. The reason inaongelea the Oedipus complex ama the Oedipal mother, which I'll come back to it, ni ati Carl Jung ali-identify, ama Carl Jung is a Freudian. A Freudian is someone mwenye alichukuanga the works of Freud, ama alikuwa influenced na the works of Freud, Sigmund Freud. Remember Sigmund Freud vile tulianza hii show. So Carl Jung ama other Freudians, I can't remember the names, there's a whole list of the Freudians, walichukuanga the works of Sigmund Freud na waka-identify that one of the greatest impediments to the attainment of full maturity in a human being is nothing, ama is none other than the Oedipal mother. Who's an Oedipal mother? For us to understand who an Oedipal mother is, we have to identify what a woman is. What is a woman? It sort of sounds like a no-brainer. I'm one of those, irrelevant question, but think of it. What is a woman? One of the most basic definition of what a woman is a woman is the species, is the gender that contributes much to reproduction. Because look at it this way. If you look at the size of the ovum and the size of the sperm, the ovum is what, 10 times the size of the sperm. That's number one. And number two, well, females, they have to sort of have the baby inside of them for what, 9 months, and then immediately after 9 months they give birth to the kid, and then lazima wa take care of the kid for the next, I don't know, 1 year ama 2 years ama 3 years. They have to be really close to the kid, because one of the things we know is that kids are really vulnerable. They can't even walk, they can't even speak, they can't communicate effectively. So the mother has to be really close to the kid, ama to the infant, for it to survive. Think of it that way. That's a better way of conceptualizing it. So that is a mother. That's the work of a mother. He brings forth life and he has to take care of the kid. Now, you see that maternal ethos of taking care of the kid, or nurturing the kid, to ensure that no external force itakuja na devour the kid ama degenerate the kid into nothingness. So that maternal ethos, it can sort of morph ama shift to something that is exactly what the woman is trying to prevent. This is what I mean. So assume you're a mother. So you're protecting the kid from external forces. You don't want things to get into the kid and jeopardize its existence. But it gets to a point where you clasp the baby too much to your breast. I'm speaking in a metaphorical way. You overprotect the kid, because of that underlying maternal ethos. Yeah, kunacha the kid to ensure nothing comes to threaten the existence of the kid, of the infant. That's between age 1 to 3. But you see what happens in some cases ni ati some women huwa wana extend the period. Unapata like ana take care of an infant, but he or she is not necessarily an infant. Ni tu ati the woman may decide, I'm gonna elevate the maternal ethos above all else. What the kid needs ni ati akifika hii point, you see, from age 1 to 3, he's extremely vulnerable. There's nothing he can do. He can't cater for anything for himself. He can't speak on his or her behalf. So anahitaji a representation ama representative mwenye ata speak on their behalf, and that happens to be the mother. Now the father is actually in the picture, but role yake inakujanga afterwards, where we have to instill discipline. Now the Freudians, nimesema like the Freudians wali identify that one of the key impediments ama blocks to full attainment of maturity in a human being is the Oedipal mother. So for the kid to mature, you have to let go of the kid. Itafika a point where you have to let go of the id, so that anazaenda interact with the world. Now, of course, the world is full of pain, suffering, tragedy, and malevolence. So aki-interact na the world, itam shape into this formidable force that will have actually matured, so that the woman atashinda aki take care of the infant. Because number number one ni you have to grow, you have to mature. Number two ni ati of maybe later I want another kid, so sitashinda nimebaki na wewe, I have to let go of you. Lazima uende into the world na it breaks you ama it shapes you to this what would you say, to this strong, reliable, independent human being. So what the Freudians walikuwa wanajaribu kusema, like with the Oedipal mother, ni ati some women wanna decide that, you know what, I'm not gonna let go of the kid, I'll overprotect my kid, because we all know the world is full of pain and suffering. As I've just said, ni ati sitaki aende huko I experience hizi vitu, so kenye nitafanya mimi ni ati nitam overprotect, I'll clasp the kid to my breast, sawa sawa, na anything, akijaribu kulia kidogo niko hapo, akiumia kidogo niko hapo, anything ina go amiss kwa life yake niko hapo, I'll try as much as possible to correct ama rectify the situation. So the Freudians wakasema no, actually you think that you're protecting the kid, you're protecting the infant, but what you are doing ni that you are becoming the same thing you're trying to protect the kid from. You see those sort of snakes the dangers that you're trying to protect your kid from, you become that same thing. So you become the snake that you're trying to protect your kid from. So the best solution ni ati you need to let the kid go into the world. Now I face all these tragedies, I face all these atrocities, hizi vitu zote zenye ziko kwa dunia, and that's exactly how you get them back. If we can go back to the story of Adam and Eve. So Adam ndiye aliumbwa wa kwanza, he was the one who was created first, and then Eve came later. And the sort of instruction that God gave Adam ni ati you fill and subdue the world, and then name all the creation zenye nimeumba from day 1 to day 6. That's going to be your task, you as Adam. And then Eve, since God aliona like Adam ako lonely and all that, and sort of needs a helper, he took a rib na akaunda Eve. And so the responsibility ya Eve ni ati alikuwa anafaa kusaidia Adam. You see, with the whole subduing and filling the world, hiyo ndio ilikuwa kazi ya Eve, kumsaidia kufanya hizi vitu, even to give some of these animals, plants, the whole creation, to give it an identity. So hiyo ndio ilikuwa kazi ya Eve. Kazi ya Adam ni ku fill the world, kusubdue, you know, to explore the world and to name. Now I want you to remember that, to name. You see, to name something is to give it an identity. I'm Evanol. That is who I am. So for someone to identify who I am, ananiita by my name. Oh, Evanol, I want you to do A, B, C, and D for me. So that's my identity. Sawa sawa, hiyo ni jina langu. For you to identify me, lazima uniite by my name. So when God says you have to name the creation, what God was simply saying is, ninataka uzipatie an identity. Now, in the fall of man, here comes a snake. And it's so weird, because I explain this snake imetoka wapi. It's so weird that unapata kuna a snake yenye iko kwa the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And then the snake approach the woman, ambia, oh, huyu Mungu aliwaambia like sijui amfai kukula from this, you don't have to, you shouldn't eat from the fruit of this tree, because mta understand ama mtakuwa able to distinguish between good and evil. But essentially what God was hiding from you is he knows that if you take and eat the fruit from this tree, you'll be like him. That was a lie, because Adam and Eve waliumbwa from the image of God. It's like they were gods. We are gods, essentially. That's who we are. In that hierarchy, yeah, gods, tuko mahali hapa. Anyway, that's a story for another day. So the snake convince Eve, anaambia Eve, unyi msisikize kenye God alisema. Chochote yenye God alisema hizo zilikuwa stories za jaba. Na mkikula hii tunda A, B, C and D, it happen. Now You have to identify that this is a snake talking. It's not any other creature. And it was so intentional. Kwa nini it was a snake? And I'll tell you why towards the end of this video. Nitakwambia kwa nini that creature being a snake is so important. Because ingekuwa creature, maybe ingekuwa a lizard, ingekuwa any other reptile. But there's a reason ilikuwa a snake. So, Eve amesikiza hizi stories zote from the serpent. But what he does ni anasikiza. See where that's the problem. Hapo ndio shida ilianzia. Task yenye alipatiwa si hiyo. Task yenye Eve alipatiwa ni actually to help Adam in subduing and filling the earth and giving God's creation an identity. That was the task, being a helper. But yeye akaamua, but hii snake kuna vile inaongea na tunafaa kuisikiza by the way. So instead of going to Adam na mwambie, by the way, kuna kaka snake, kuna vile kananiambia A, B, C and D, na sidhani kama that's correct. I don't think that's sort of the instruction we were given by God. What do you think? Kenye Eve anafanya ni, he decides to do what an Oedipal mother does. And so, hapa ndio tuna the connection. Kenye Eve anafanya ni, he takes the maternal ethos. You know, that nurturing and taking care of the baby. That underlying ethos. Anaichukua na anai-elevate above all else. Anasema ni, I don't want to listen. I don't have to consult anyone. I don't want to listen to anyone. Mimi mwenyewe ninaweza make a concrete decision. As ni ana-elevate the maternal, unaona, ana-elevate the maternal ethos above all else. Na Kenya alikuwa anafaa kufanya ni, anafaa kwenda kwa Adam. Amwambie, by the way, A, B, C and D ime happen. What do you think? Sawa. So that was Eve's sin. It's sort of a pride. Because, see, majority of people think that we as a human species, to fall simply because we took the fruit, simply because we ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. But that wasn't the sin. Sin haikuwa kukula hiyo tunda, because when you get to is it First Kings, kwa story ya Solomon, you get to understand that wakati God aliuliza Solomon, unataka nini kutoka kwangu? Then Solomon akamwambia, ninataka the wisdom to distinguish between good and evil, to rule my people as a benevolent ruler, essentially. See, we imeandikwa kwa Biblia that, but you can paraphrase it that way. So God actually alikuwa pleased na your request, because amemwambia ninataka ku distinguish between good and evil. I want the wisdom to distinguish between good and evil. It's sort of, Solomon alikuwa anaomba the same fruit enye God alikuwa ameforbid Adam and Eve from taking in the garden of Eden. Sawa. Tuachane na hiyo. On this other side, kuna this Adam. So see, Eve ashakula the fruit, anaendea Adam. Anaambia Adam, kuna unyoka mwenye ameniambia nikule hii fruit, and then I'll be knowledgeable and I'll be able to distinguish between good and evil. We'll be like God and we'll be like the angels. Now, Adam, being such a cock, being such a weak man, na hapo ndio by the way tulianza kuokotwa we as men. As anitonga Iki Watson anapenda kujoke. Anasema hapo ndio tulianza kuokotwa. Because wewe kama mwanaume, your partner amekujia kwako na shida. Instead of trying to analyze the situation, na uambie Eve, hey, wait a minute. How about you don't listen to snakes? Mtu mwenye alituweka hapa si snake. Mwenye alituweka hapa anakatupatia instructions is God. How about you go back to God na tumuulize, hey, kuna huyu creature by the way umeweka hapa na anatuambia A, B, C and D. What are we supposed to do? But being a typical man, being a weak man, ninataka Eve akue beshte yangu because I'm all lonely na sitaki kukua lonely tena. Na sitaki ku-offend Eve. So ana decide ku listen to Eve. Na Eve amemkujia na hii shida, amemwambia, kuna nini ime happen? And notice wakati Eve alikula the fruit, nothing happened. Hakuna kitu ili happen. It's after Adam amekula the fruit ndio kila kitu degenerate into nothingness ama chaos. So instead of Adam kwenda kwa God na mwambie, hey, by the way, kuna shida iko hapa, what are we supposed to do? He goes ahead, anachukua the fruit na yeye mwenyewe ana consume, and everything in a collapse. Everything in a collapse. And then we see this in modern marriages, which is why by the way I'm recording this video. Kuna kitu ina happen where this is the relevance of the story. Unapata kwa a family setup, kuna mtoi ana radiate some sort of energy can be equated to that of a snake. Mtoto analialia kila saa, ana complain all the time. You know, when kids wanafikanga certain age, wanajua tu the moment I cry, ama I throw a tantrum, my parents will listen to me. So wanazanga ku take advantage of that. Wana realize, oh, nikilia hivi kidogo wazazi wangu wata chip in, and they'll sort of pay attention to me. Sawa sawa. Now you as a parent, ama you as, tuanze na the woman hapa, we'll get to the man. You as a woman, kuna ile maternal ethos. Unasema, oh, actually mtoto wangu analia, tunahitaji we need to focus on them at this particular point in time. But kenye wanasahau ni huyu si mtoto mwenye alikuwa 5 ama 6 years ago. He's not a toddler. He's not a neonate. Yeah, neonate is more accurate. He's not a neonate. He's 6 or 7 years old. But wewe simply because umekuwa overwhelmed na the maternal ethos, unaangalia hizo snakes na unazisikiza. You see where the nini inakuja, the link. You decide to listen to that snake. Hutaki kumwambia like, hey, wewe, hebu nyamaza, tulia, ni nini unalia? There's nothing to cry about. But wewe as a mother, unasikiza hiyo snake. Sawa sawa. Na the husband anafaa kuja. Actually, they say women are very high in negative emotion. I think that's why they have a proclivity to listen to kids, because in adolescence, both males and females attain the age of puberty. Tukifikanga hiyo age, kenye na happen kunakuwa na a very clear distinction between males and female, because wanaume wanakuwa wakubwa, the boys, they become huge, enormous, na wako na, you know, a broad shoulder. So ina sort of intimidate the female side, because huni mtu tumegrow na yeye 2 years ago alikuwa like we're sort of on the same level, but sasa tumehit puberty, amekuwa mkubwa. So unaona hapo ni intimidating kidogo. So hiyo ni number 1. Na number 2 ni mwili ni kama in the female side, mwili na prop itself up for reproduction. So unapata ni for you to reproduce, obviously you have to be aware of threats. I'm going to bring a being into this world, so lazima nikuwe aware of any threat yenye itakuwa around. Kuna anything ita interfere with taking care of the infant. So that's why unapatanga women are very very high in neuroticism, negative emotion. Essentially wana lean sana towards negative emotion because they have to. Number 1, nimekwambia, like, boys wanakuwa wakubwa and intimidating, so women become automatically, they become the vulnerable gender. Number 2 ni they have to take care of kids. Sawa. So they have to take care of kids na they're the vulnerable gender. So lazima kila saa wakwe ni kama wako alert. Shida iko wapi? Kukiwa na any slight deviation towards that which is positive, wana identify, they know that. Sawa. So ndio maana unapatanga women are high neuroticism. Kuna research imefanywa kuangalia hivyo, but anyway I'm not going to focus much on that. Kenye nilikuwa najaribu kukwambia ni women are very high in negative emotion. Now one of the most prevalent negative emotion ni anxiety. So imagine a house where mtoto analia, mtoto wako hapo hivyo analia, sawa, ama analia for no reason, hakuna kitu inamfanya alie, ni juu tu notice like nikilia mzazi wangu ata respond to it, na mostly ni my mother, because my mother is the one who's very close to me, atalia. Na so the woman is anxious, anakuwa anxious, aelewi mbona mtoto analia. And then anaamua, you know what, see, I have a husband, nitaenda kwake nimuulize, how are we supposed to take care of this kid? Now the husband, being so weak and mediocre, instead of approaching the kid and amwambie, yo, tebu tulia, shida yako ni gani, tebu tulia. And that's how you instill discipline in a kid. Anaamua aje, anaamua ku align na story ya the kid. Anasema, mtoto analia, probably kuna shida mahali. Unataka nini? Anything the kid, for crying out loud. Uni mtoto wako 6 years old. Hakuna kitu anajua. And then unaenda kumuuliza ati unataka nini? 6 year old anajua nini? Wewe unamuuliza ati baba unataka nini? What you should do as a parent ni unamwambia, we are the grown ups hapa, and what we are going to say we are going to abide by it. But sasa wewe you're such weak and mediocre, hautaki kusikiza, hautaki ku embody the role of a father. Unaamua ku play along na the kid. Na sasa kila kitu in 6 years time mtu anaanza kukukula kichwa. Na sasa familia ina disintegrate. So unaanza ku blame the wife. Ni huyu mwanamke ndio hajui kulea mtoto. At the same time, mwanamke pia anakublame you as the father ama the husband, anakwambia you're supposed to be the head of this family. And by the way, she's right. You're supposed to be the head. You're supposed to show us the way. You're supposed to lead. You're supposed to influence us. But wewe umeamua kukua such a cock na unasikiza the snakes. So the same thing ili happen kwa the Garden of Eden, ndio the same thing ina happen in your garden, which happens to be your house. So umeamua kusikiza the snake, umeamua kusikiza mtoi analia tu, analia na hana reason ya kulia. I mean, every need of him or her has been satiated, na kabisa unaona hana excuse ya kulia. Instead of standing up na mwambie, wacha kulia, ni nini shida yako? And actually that's what kids want. Wanatakanga direction, wanataka kujua limits ziko wapi. So that's why they test you. And the kids are very good at this, by the way. Wanakutest, wanajua, so boundary iko hapa, sifai kupita hapa. But wewe, hata wewe mwenyewe you haven't identified who you really are, and then umeamua ku start a family. So you end up in a very very huge mess yenye wewe mwenyewe hata hujui utatoka hapo aje. It's the same thing yenye ili happen kwa the Garden of Eden. Sorry for that ramble. Anyway, I had to. Solution hapa ni gani? There has to be a remedy. There has to be a solution. The solution hapa ni we have to go back to the archetypes, the Bible. So we have to identify who the archetypal father is na who the archetypal mother is. In the Bible, the archetypal father is Abraham, and this is why Abraham was the archetypal father. See, the role of a father ni ku encourage your children. It's like, hey kid, I know the world is painful. I know the world is full of bitter people, angry, resentful people. Ninajua na kuna so much atrocity, kuna so much suffering. But you have all it takes. You have all it takes, and I'm really 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 stressing on that. You have all it takes to withstand all of that. Is that hata kama kuna hiyo side ya dunia, but you have to go to it. You have to confront it voluntarily. Now, I as your father, I have no option, by the way, but to encourage it. Go to the world. The world is full of opportunities. I want you to go and have the adventure of your life. And that's exactly what Abraham does. See, Abraham anachukua Isaac, and is willing to sacrifice Isaac to God. You can think of God as God is many things. God is many things. That's why wakati Moses alimuuliza niambie the Israelites nani amenituma, God alimwambia I am who I am. It's because God is so many things. Si ati God ni kitu moja, but all these things they all point to something supreme. So hiyo ndio kitu watu wanaita God. So kenye Abraham anafanya ni ako willing to sacrifice Isaac. Ako willing to let Isaac go. Ako willing to sacrifice Isaac to what is ultimately good. And that's what a father should do. It's like, enda huko kwa dunia. Ninajua ukiencounter hizi vitu zote, something good will emerge out of it. That is the archetypal father. And that's not the end of it. That's how you get them back. You want to get your kid back, send them to the world. Go, enda. Wacha kukaa kwa room yako, wacha kukaa kwa basement, doing absolutely nothing. You know, unaamka asubuhi, kazi yako ni cool. I want you to go out into the world. Now, ukiface problems, you have all it takes. You have all it takes. I'm really stressing on that. You have all it takes to navigate your shida yenye uko nayo, and even to correct course. And that's exactly how you get them back. So now that's the archetypal father. Archetypal father ni ule mwenye anapush mtoto wake. It doesn't matter kama ni whether male ama female. Anamwambia go into the world. Construct something for yourself. Wacha kukaa tu hapa. This is a safe haven. Ukikaa hapa, you'll never mature. You'll never mature. I want you to go into the world. Now, the role of the archetypal mother ni to accept that. Now, the archetypal mother is Mary. Mary is usually considered to be the archetypal mother, and here's why. See, nimewambia the underlying ethos ya wanawake ni ati, our women, ni ati, si mtoto nimejifungua nimepata mtoto. My role as a woman is to nurture that kid and to protect it from external threats. But it has to get to a point where this kid has to grow, has to mature. So what the mother should do ni ati lazima afail. That was Freudians. The Freudians believe that a good mother necessarily fails. Fail hapa ni ati, see, the maternal ethos ni ku overprotect the kid. So you have to fail in that. You have to let the kid go. The kid go. Kama mwananga ile painting ya Michelangelo yenye iko St. Petersburg, the Michelangelo's Pieta. Ukigoogle tu utaona where Mary ameshikilia Christ after Christ amekuwa crucified, amekuwa injured, amekuwa brutally treated by the Romans, and then amekuwa crucified, and then amemshikilia hivi nani Mary. Now that's the role of the mother. Ni ati, yes, I have all it takes, by the way, kukushikilia and to never let go of you. But for me to succeed as a mother, I'll have to let you go. Nenda, go into the world. I know it will break you, but that's exactly how I'm going to get you back. Otherwise, nikikushikilia hivi, nita end up kukua the very, very serpent, the very, very threat that I'm trying to protect you from. So unaona hapa kuna the archetypal father who is Abraham, is I'm willing to sacrifice my son to that which is ultimately good. And the woman pia anafaa kufanya the same thing. And that's exactly how you get your kids back. It's like some mtoto ataenda kwa dunia, face all these things. And eventually, because death is not the end of it in the story of Christ. See, after Mary ameshikilia Christ, Christ amekufa. But that's not the end of the story. The end of the story ni you get your kid back because Christ will resurrect. And that's the end of the story. Sasa ni mtoto anaenda kwa dunia and then face all these things. Hizi vitu zote yenye nimewa explainia. Anaenda naziface, and then that's how they mature. After all that, sasa wanarudi, wanakwambia, dad, mom, nimefanya A, B, C, and D, nimemature, this is how I see the world. I can actually live independently. I don't have to live under your wings. And that's the best thing, that's the best gift yenye unaweza patia mtoto wako. Let the kid go. You as a woman, you as a mother, don't be the Oedipal mother. Don't clasp the serpent to your breast. You know what I mean. Usishikilie mtoto sana. Huu mtoto hata grow. Itafika point mali utaanza kujiuliza nilifanya nini? Si ningeacha tu mtoto wangu aende. But itakuwa too late. Sasa mtoto wako ataturn into this. Remember in Genesis, it's a snake. But in Revelation, it's a dragon. Mtoto anakuwa mkubwa na he or she is no longer a snake. He or she is a dragon. And then the energy, the effort that you need to confront a dragon is not the same energy that you would have needed to confront the snake to begin with. So think about that. Think about that. Are you the Oedipal mother? Am you the weak father? And us, I'm a Gen Z. Sisi kama Gen Z, we are really craving for that. We are really craving for that. For our dads watuambie, go out there, watu push, fanya hii. We are really craving for that. That's why unapata wase wengi wana lean towards people like who's this Romanian? Andrew Tate, the Tates. Wanatafuta influencers kama hao juu wanajaribu kuona anything that radiates masculinity, and the only thing they can associate masculinity with ni akina Andrew Tate. Tumepata these promiscuous men, akina Andrew Tate, who shouldn't be the embodiment of masculinity, portraying all the opulence, promiscuity, hawataki kuishi na monogamous marriage. I know people are gonna have a problem with that statement. A monogamous marriage, yes, it's angalia any study inaonyesha like mtoi mwenye ana grow fiti anakonga kwa a monogamous marriage. So yeah, how to the Tates hawafai kuwa the ultimate representation of masculinity. Masculinity inafaa kuwa story na authenticity, reliability. Can people depend on you? Dependability. Hiyo inafaa kuwa masculinity. But sasa kuna hii side when you portray false masculinity, but that's the only option. Sasa what's watafanya nini? I'm faced with two options. It's either I remain to be an infant, ama I move forward. Now the only option yenye niko nao ni kufuata hii life ya kina Andrew Tate, where we just objectify women na kuwatumia kama objectifying women essentially. I don't even have to explain it. So wana crave kuona the ultimate representation of masculinity. Masculinity ni nini? Saizi a lot of men wako confused. Hawajui hata masculinity ni nini. Because okay, there are people wenye wame step up, wenye wanajaribu kufanya hii kazi. Shout out to Amerix. Anajaribu sana kuonyesha like men, this is how you should orient yourself in the world. I don't 100% agree with him, but 95% of what he says, the guy is actually right. This is how you should orient yourself in the world. You should be dangerous and then find a way to control that thing. Usikue weak. Usikue weak, because when you're weak, you're vulnerable to anything. You can't stand up for yourself. You can't even stand for those who are truly vulnerable. You as a man. So hapo ndo kuna shida. Men, young men especially, wana crave sana kuona representation ya masculinity. But the problem now sasa hapa ni ati it's so scarce. Masculinity is so scarce. So yeah, that's it for today. I hope mume learn. For those who have questions, feel free to ask down in the comment section. For those who like what I'm doing and want to support, kindly subscribe, share, and like. So see you in the next video. Ciao.